community talk meeting. It is a Friday, which is the day that we have been having them on, although that may change one of the agenda items that we have there. That angle for me is much more nicely lit at the moment, so let's just stick with that one. Oh, wait a sec, you're not seeing, because I'm not sharing my screen. There we go. I think, yes, different angle. So, AV community meeting. I think we didn't have a meeting last week. The week before, we had definitely lots of chat. I think, did I share the notes from the meeting in the Slack? I think I
believe you did.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do it immediately, and then I was like, over the weekend, oh, I must. That was such a good meeting. We need to share all of the stuff there. We've got, let me grab the things that are on the agenda items already. Did people have other things that they would like to add to the agenda at this late moment?
Michael and I put thumbs up on your suggestion. Yeah.
All right. Yes, I'll pop that in there as well. And there's another record. Links to podcasts. There's so many podcasts to listen to. What should we all do with all the other things? So that's there. I was just going to scroll up to the see if I don't know if we generated any action items from the previous meeting. Particularly, oh, I think we go. It was so long. It turned it to a snippet. There we go. Yeah, just found that. I'll share that link in case other people want to see what we were talking about. So last week's notes, like that. Yeah. Oh, of course we had Sigu. I think we may not have Sigu this week. He's traveling and moving around. Yeah. Okay. We had action items. We'll post agenda by Thursday. That was done. Yeah. I think is that the last one we had. Confused. Anyway. Oh, and Joao is now here as well. Great. Hey, Joao, how's it going?
Good, and you?
Yeah. Not bad at all. Yeah. So I just got the pulled in your agenda things. Added one. I just wondered, should we do your agenda item first? You were asking the mentors about some questions, and you had sort of going to give us a bit of a summary. But I thought that might be good to do that first. What do you think?
It's fine. So I didn't have time to prepare this, so we can wing it. Basically, I talked to the mentors, and the main two questions that I had was to understand their opinion, like what would the future look like for Agile Ventures, if they thought that Agile Ventures would be more like a platform, like a launchpad for projects, or if it should be something more than that and create some sort of community.
Yes, indeed.
And the other question.
Sorry, I've got the questions that you answered here for people who want to read them. But yes, do go ahead.
Oh, cool. And the other one was basically talking a little bit more about this meeting and understand what people thought about it. And I collected some feedback on both of them, and I'm just gonna highlight. I had some different answers, but it looks like the majority of the people that I talked to, the basic answer for the first question was a simple yes. It should be more community style instead of just a launchpad where projects are completely isolated from each other. And also widely, like for the second question, I had some different answers saying like people didn't have time. That was like I believe like maybe 3/4 of the answers were like that.
Mm.
And that people, mm, the hours sometimes it's not good as well. And I from all this, I have like something that I thought it was interesting. I got something else from it, from these questions. Someone said the following: I think it is less important which direction Agile Ventures takes, as long as it has a direction. In the past, the biggest problem it has had is trying to do everything to everybody, and just doesn't work. So this was like this is a quote,
Mhm.
and I thought it was interesting to have this feedback from
Yeah, and so it broke up slightly, but I think it said that the
So-
feedback was that in the problem in the past is that Sam trying to do everything and be everything to everyone. Was that the?
yes. Sorry, it's not Sam. It doesn't say Sam here.
No, what does it say?
What it says is, I think. Let me see where you are. The part where it says Sam. In the past, uh, the biggest problem was that AV was trying to do everything for everybody.
Ah, okay. That AV was trying to do everything for
AV.
everybody. Right.
No one is pointing at you, Sam.
I'm here to be pointed out if you need to, but then it's good to trying
Yeah, it's
to
fun for the community.
everything for everybody.
So, and basically that was it. I had some other highlighted things here. Someone talked about we should have some smoother onboarding ramp for our new developers and for projects and for clients, and we should celebrate something that's, I think it's very important and is missing sometimes in the community, is celebrating the achievements of the community. That was also something that someone talked about.
Mhm.
And basically, I think this sums up everything that we got. Like we got we got 4 answers from 4 different mentors, and these are like, I think the biggest highlight, the points that I'd like to highlight, and also what the majority of people said. So that's it. I don't know if you guys have any more questions, or have anything that I'd like to add to this. So personally, I think it was an interesting feedback. I feel a little bit disappointed that from 16 people that I reached, I only had 4 answers. But at least it starts giving us some sort of idea where people are. I'd love to have more information from other people, but I don't know, because like it's the same thing that happens in this meeting. Like we are 4 or 5 people in here that we are not deciding what the community will do, or we're not doing anything like special, but we are the only ones that have like a more active voice. So I don't know.
So, JP, could you repeat the second question? Like, what was the second question?
The second question was more related to this meeting itself, like what would it change to make people come to the meeting, and if there was some problem with schedules, some problem with why weren't people coming to the meeting, or in how would they improve the meeting? That was basically
Okay.
the third question.
What did they say?
From the 4, 3 said that they didn't have time.
Okay.
And that the meeting was at the same time as they were working. So, yeah.
So do we think we want to discuss that right now, or I guess we kind of discussed it last time too, right? Last week or 2 weeks ago.
You mean, Federico, like discussing other potential changes to the meeting?
Yeah. So basically answering the question, live right now.
Oh well, that's a yeah. So I guess I'll just say on this point, you know, I know JP is disappointed to get 4 of 16. I think it's interesting seeing that, you know, we are the first time he asked the question in a group channel, he got 1 response. Now asking people individually responses. I think the next stage from that, as I've started seeing it, is actually we could create a survey. And I've been surprised actually how some people seem to be more comfortable answering a survey than they are responding to an email or directly in a Slack chat, so that we could get more input that way. But your suggestion there, Federico, I think is also great, because it may be that those of us in the meeting have opinions on either of these 2 things, and we could certainly, yeah, Federico, if you've got thoughts on either of these 2 points, or anybody else has, this would be a great time to add those. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I could post them right in there. Yeah, live. I'm curious to see what I said. I guess I could share this. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, you want to share some text of? Yeah. Oh, so you want to share more details about your answer to JP? I think that's great. If you want to share, yeah. Do you want to talk us through some of the things there? Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah. Sorry, the main point was to refresh my memory, because I totally forgot what I said.
Sure, no problem at all.
Oh yeah, so move the meeting back to Mondays and promote it a little. Yeah. Have some build up to the meetings by discussing a topic of the week in the Slack chat. Okay. Okay, and then maybe trying to resolve it during the meeting. Okay. Yeah, not the greatest answers, so maybe that was a bad idea.
No, it's good, and I think, you know, potentially we could, like, an interesting approach as well is like we could now have those of us who wanted to could share our answers individually in the group chat to create more discussion, talking points. You know, we could also, as I say, do this survey thing. I'll just make a little space. Will or Michael, did you have anything? Did you want to address these points at all, or? Sounds like go on.
Would it be heresy to suggest the weekend meeting?
No, that's a great suggestion.
People are saying that they're busy during the week. Or
that's a very valuable suggestion. Excellent. And that's, so, go on, Federico.
No, it's nothing. I was going to say that's very brave of you, Michael. That's. I don't think many people like to work on the weekends here. And maybe it's something we should address. We've sort of had some efforts we did last year. You were doing the scrum on Saturdays, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was a point when I was doing scrums on Saturdays and Sundays. I mean, I think it's yeah. I've got to be very careful with as a working parent. I just got to be very careful with those kind of things. But that doesn't. I mean, you know, it should, just because weekends I have more constraints than many people at weekends. That doesn't mean that, you know, a weekend meeting wouldn't be a fantastic idea.
So talking about that, I mean, what does everyone think about Monday? Is that just bad? Is 1 p.m. UTC not workable?
So why do we think that's better? Friday?
Yeah, so I'm not sure that people like to attend. They're looking forward to the weekend, they're like, okay, so I got into the scrum, I got into this mob, I'm done. Maybe on Mondays it might be better. Plus, there was a lot of confusion about the time on Friday. Plus, it used to be originally on Monday. That's about it.
Oh, I think that the key thing that I think again, this is with my family group, like, so that this week, this meeting is at a reasonable time for me because the UK is only 4 hours ahead of the US. Next week, it's going to go back to being, like, well, again, it depends what we do with the time of the meeting, and the times of all of the other, scrums and stuff during the whole week. I think for me, I've got to be very, like, basically trying to having something start at 5:30 p.m. for me UK time means that I end up leaving my wife dealing with the kids through the beginning part of supper time, and it usually ends in a huge screaming fight. And so I've got to be really careful with that. We've got, like, having the meeting time towards the end of the day here in the UK means that we make it possible for people on the west coast of the US to attend, although we haven't had many of those. We also kind of like make it difficult for people in Asia to attend. The talk of moving it to a Monday would be like, so we kind of have these two slots, right? There's the just before work for people in the on the west coast, which corresponds to like late evening in the UK, sorry, I mean like 4:30, 5:30 p.m. Then we've got this sort of slot, which is just before work starts for people on the East Coast or thereabouts, and we run, premium mobs on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So I guess the thought was maybe to move the thing back to the, one of those things, in which case it's Monday and Wednesday. Sorry, Monday and Wednesday. I mean, we're on actually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. God, my brain is at the end of the week. The Friday is difficult. We've basically got we've got stuff on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So if we were moving the meeting to an earlier time slot, then Monday is the only one that's kind of in principle free, although even then. So, and JP had been saying that he could do the earlier time slot mixed in with his commute. Probably not as convenient for him, but we were talking about it when we JP, and you were saying it would be possible to give it a try. So,
yeah, as I said, we could give it a try. I'm a little bit constrained because, like, somewhere I don't have internet, and then I'd have to I have like half an hour on the train, and talking in the train is not very welcome.
No, it's not good for you. I mean, for you, when the clock goes back next week, your lunchtime will still be at the same time, right? Yeah. So in order for you to attend this meeting, it would have to move an hour back.
Yes. Yes. So basically, it will be the same scenario.
So it would then end up being. So this is like late.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what time is it for you now on the East Coast? It's like 12:30, right?
It's almost 1. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll put like US East. That's sort of the approximate starting time there. I don't know what am I doing. I don't know. 12:30. But yeah, this is your lunch break, so that you can make. And then that we have the other what is the one that we do, which is like lunchtime UK, and it's usually it's been 12 p.m. this week, but it's usually, what is this? It's like 13 minus 5 is like 8 a.m. So these are the kind of these are the slots that we do a lot of stuff during the week, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because this is for people who on the East Coast who want to attend a mob before work. That's a kind of a friendly slot for them.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it feels like with the meeting time, there's maybe no good times, apart from perhaps Michael's weekend suggestion.
Yeah. I'd like to make a couple of points.
Please.
I think, like Jal says, people don't want to work at the weekend. And I think in principle, I agree with that. Although whether Agile Ventures is work or a hobby, that's debatable, I guess. But what was I going to say? Sorry. But in practice, I think it's important to try these things because, like, then the reason, everyone's saying that they're busy during the week, and that's in practice. We know that from, like, we have data on that, I guess. So to try it at the weekend, even if it's just 1 week, was interesting. I've noticed with Free Code Camp that a lot more people are interested in the weekend. And its success partly depends on the number of people who turn up. And the second point I want to make, though, is that I guess that, Sam, you're going to be hosting these meetings. So the most important thing is that the host... Sorry, Michael?
Oh, I was saying if we do the weekend, probably Sam's not going to host it.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a bit different then. But well, can I make this point just in general?
Go ahead, Will.
The host is the person who has to be most happy with the timing because it needs to be sustainable. That's just my experience from running my group. Like at the beginning, we were talking about throwing out all different times, and really, some people come and then they drop off. So it's really about the person who's there every time. What's the most convenient for them? That's what gets sustained over time.
Yeah, some great points there. I mean, I think the interesting, I'll maybe say a couple of things, is one, my preference would be to not interact with computers at all at the weekend. Just, I work, an intense Monday to Friday, and I try and, when I was younger, before I had kids, I would work through the weekend sometimes, and I'd found it was unsustainable, particularly having kids. I've very much tried to make it so that I don't work at the weekend. I now have all of these commitments for teaching lots of kids for soccer at the weekends. In order to make Agile Ventures a kind of an operating charity, I do pair with people on Sunday afternoons. I kind of make a slot available. I mean, it's not good for me personally or my family, but it's kind of like a sacrifice that I make to, help the charity do good work and help individual people on that thing. I guess so it's not that I wouldn't be available in principle on Sunday. It's that it then becomes, in terms of the amount of time that I've got on a Sunday, it's like, okay, so would I do the AV community meeting instead of pairing with people on the weekend? It's, there's a limited amount of time. I think it's definitely worth trying, because the other thing I would say is, and this, unfortunately, because of the interface, it is not as easy as it should be to start a meeting. But my dream for Agile Ventures and these systems is that ultimately it wouldn't rely on a host. There would effectively just be a room that people could get into. It would, like, everybody would know where it was. It would be automatically recorded. It wouldn't require, some person who knows the special secret runes to make it all happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd say in terms of, this is why, if we're talking about Sam hosting on the weekend, that could be problematic because, like he's saying, that doing that instead of the premium face-to-face, I know there's certain people that basically that are paying for premium face-to-face, but can only basically do it on the weekend, right?
Right.
And since Sam is essentially the only person doing face-to-face.
Yeah, I mean, we've got potentially Sigurd now starting, but we haven't. I mean, that relates to this broader thing of. I mean, I'd like to get more mentors involved in doing these kind of things, and also getting them compensated for doing these kinds of things. But that's another story. Sorry, Michael. Do go on.
I was saying, so for those people that if you were to do the meeting instead of the face-to-face, then essentially the charity would end up losing that revenue. Because I don't imagine that people will continue to subscribe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sort of a swings and roundabouts sort of thing. I mean, and it's interesting. I mean, so it's also like the time that we spend. If it was a half-hour community meeting, I guess part of it is we always have these great discussions, and then I feel like I want to stick around and do stuff. I think we should certainly give it a try of going, because doing it one time on a Sunday is not going to hopefully cause my kids to kill each other or their mother or anything else like that. We should give it a try, and if it does allow a lot more people to attend and people are enjoying it, I mean, I think ideally it should be something that could happen that wouldn't require my presence every week. So I'm tempted to agree with Will that it's worth a try.
Right.
I guess.
Well, what about Joao?
I was going to say, Joao and Federico, do you? What are your feelings about doing a meeting like this on a Sunday one time?
Heresy.
Heresy. So for me, I think it will be very hard to attend on weekends. But if it's the time and date that we have more people attending, I think it should be done on weekends.
How about you, Federico?
So I don't want to get into a discussion about time. I mean, maybe we should, the time on Sunday, but I'd be curious as to what time, because it would depend on the time and the season. Sports. Is it football season? Is it baseball season? Baseball season is over.
Yeah, I mean, there are things called DVR. You can record.
I don't know.
No, you need live. No, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I take that. I mean, the constraints for me is that it would be closer to this kind of time for me. It would need to be like, probably the earliest that I can do it on a Sunday, assuming that we're thinking that I'm there, would be about 3 p.m. Our time, which from next week will be that's like 10 a.m. US East.
Right.
I mean, this is the time slots that I do these pairing sessions on the, range between like 3 to 6. I mean, I can't necessarily use all of that time, but there's some room for maneuver. So it would be in this range between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. on a Sunday, US East.
Right. So I mean, I guess if we're going with that, I could do 10 through noon, so 3 through 5 your time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's we've got like Sam potential. So I guess I'm tempted to say we've got like kind of a proposal. We don't necessarily have to iron out the precise time right now. Perhaps we can do that in Slack, and we wouldn't do a meeting this Sunday, but potentially we would do a meeting the following Sunday.
So would that be okay with you, JP? Those hours?
As I said, weekends for me are very complicated, and it's very hard for me to schedule meetings on weekends. So you guys go for it, see if it works, and if it works, cool.
Yeah.
And I'll hear them after.
The guy wants his Friday lunchtime back. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
And I think in order for it to work, I think for the first meeting, we should have like a commitment. Like, yes, I'm going to be there.
Yeah. Well, you'd have that for me. If we do a Sunday meeting, I'd be there for the first one at the very least. I think,
Okay,
as Will says, it should be, an experiment, and we'll see. And people will turn up or not turn up, and that will be the experiment.
Yeah. So I think we nailed something down. I think we should move on.
Yep.
With the remaining time that we have.
Agreed. So we move the things around there. I guess so. Yeah, we've got two other items from me that actually sort of neatly segue from Joao's first question and these different models, and I think some of his expectations is there's a couple of podcasts that I was listening to this week. One of which was Greater Than Code podcast. There was this guy Declan Wheeling, and he's from like the Agile Alliance, and was talking about agile teams and so on. And some of the people on Greater Than Code have been a bit down on agile, but they had a productive conversation there. And I guess I just particularly wanted to highlight a couple of things that he was talking about, which is about allowing multiple teams to diverge. And that I think something that he experiences as a consultant, as an agile consultant for lots of teams, is that sometimes the way that agile or other things are practiced is that there's like, right, here is the set of practices. If you do this, if we can get all the teams doing this, then everything will be all right. And I think he suggests that that is short-sighted in that different practices work differently for different teams. And that actually, what you really want is to be allowing all the different teams to evolve their own practices, but make sure there's a mechanism for learning to be shared between the teams. And I think I see that matching what we currently have, which is that there are different teams and they're evolving different ways to do things. And the mechanism that we have for sharing the learning, which is not necessarily the best mechanism in the world, but we have different members moving from team to team over time in a natural sort of drifting flow, and they bring with them different ideas and ways of doing things. And I don't know that in this potential dichotomy that JP put up, that there's this like community versus a just a launch pad. And I think I guess rather than a dichotomy, it's a matter of degree, right? It's about how well can we facilitate the flow of information and the interaction between the different teams. Go on.
I would say this is all great, like in theory.
Yep.
But for people, especially people that are learning, they want you to lay down the law and be like, this is the prescription.
Mm-hmm.
And do this, and then they like do that for a while, like 6 months or a year.
Mm-hmm.
Or like they kind of internalize things, and then they kind of like start questioning, like, do I really need to do that, or do?
Mm-hmm.
But like just by following that prescription, they've kind of like gotten somewhere,
right?
Experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whereas it's very hard if you just like say to a beginner,
mm-hmm.
Just like just do. Like what I'm saying is there should be maybe suggested like guidelines rather than just be like, just do whatever.
Indeed. I think go on, Federico.
I was just gonna ask, so are you suggesting that we have that for AV, Michael?
Yeah, I'm saying if we're talking about like sharing the learning, not the practices.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is that especially if someone comes in with a new project and say they're not particularly experienced as a project manager or even a coder, but they want to create this project, then they can find it beneficial to have certain prescriptive practices.
Yeah.
So, what do you think, Joe? What do you think, Will?
So I think that's awesome, but if we want to move this, if you want to have some cash flowing, right? If you want to have some sort of, I'm not saying a business, but if you want to like pay the website and pay this and pay that and have some clients to work with, we need to have some sort of structure. We need to have some sort of vision. We need to have some sort of path. If we don't have that, it's going to be very hard to tell people, clients, our future clients, and so on, that yeah, we will have things for them.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's in when we start talking about this structured, it's fine and it's good if we don't take into account that money is needed. But if we start taking into account the fact that we need money because there are bills to pay, this structured, it's fine if we have something that's structured underneath that brings revenue, that brings people in, and so on. Because, like, we create this project, it's fine, it runs for 2 months, it dies. You create another project, it runs for 2 months, it dies. But the core of AV needs to keep on going.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my fear with this. If we just go, well, yeah, just whatever. And that's what I feel, and that's why I'm concerned about like these meetings. There's people seem like they don't care, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Are you talking about the evil people who don't attend the meetings, don't care, or?
I'm not talking about the evil people. I'm talking about the community in general. Like, do we want to be a community? Because if we want to be a community, we need to walk the path to it, right? We cannot be just like isolated projects that okay, people jump around from project to project, but like in the end, if this needs to be if this is going to be a community, we need to walk as a community. So we need to have a path to go.
Yeah, there's some great points there. I think I just want to acknowledge, like Michael's one, I think it's absolutely right. Beginners do like prescriptions. Interestingly, though, I think we are not just serving beginners. We've got a lot of experienced people as well who like prescriptions less. We do have 2 documents that are somewhat prescriptive about starting a project and running a project, and that have been forged through, I think, mistakes that have been made in the process of running and starting projects in the past. And there's certainly room for improving them. I think there's also certainly there's room for trying to make these documents, which are currently on GitHub, more discoverable, easily part of the path. I think I'm very much not saying that we shouldn't provide some structure, but I think what I sense from what Joao's saying about the lack of community or lack of people involved in the community meetings or what have you, I mean, it reminds me of Thomas's concern that when we had the OSRA projects and they were doing things a bit differently, they were running project scrums rather than joining in with the scrums of everybody else. They were using Jira instead of using the Pivotal Tracker, which we were kind of recommending, and as was at the time you could only put Pivotal Tracker links into the system. And I feel like people doing things differently, it's important to allow that. Like the SHF project at the moment, they've got some very experienced developers. Pat, who's been involved in many other projects, Ashley brings a lot of experience, and they're working with younger, less experienced developers. And I think, to Michael's point, I think they are providing a prescription which is based on their understanding of Agile. And I don't know, we kind of have to work out something. I feel like them doing their stuff in their units and developing their own practice and not being so involved in the community that's a little bit of a shame. I'd love them to attend more of the group meetings or what have you, but I also don't see it as, I'm not afraid of Agile Ventures dying because we've got some of the different groups are more isolated than others. I mean, there's like the Wikimedia EDU folks. We've got this new Open Farm thing coming in. I think, yeah, the burden is, when I bring this up, I think the burden is on us to see, you know, what can we do more so that there is a kind of a common goal and a common, you know, learning, that we're all getting. The benefit to all these different project groups is not just that they happen to be, okay, well, we can have a free Slack instance and we've got like a little brand to put in us and we only have that. I mean, this was back in the day, Osra, they said, you know, when we were asking them about this, they were saying, well, we don't really get that much benefit from Agile Ventures. What's it all about? I think as the number of projects goes up, the big benefit is there's now like people welcoming people into new members, and SHF and WikiEDU, and everybody benefits from kind of a friendly, open environment where we're all trying to like espouse being nice to each other and learning and trying to consider agile principles and so on. Yeah, I think, as you say, Joao, it's about this. I guess it comes down to like communicating the structure and the path and the vision. We've got bits and pieces of that. I'd be the first to admit, I think that it's not communicated as strongly, as effectively as it might be, and it's just, that's a hard problem. So I wonder, you know, like, what are the, can we move it on to what actions could we take to better communicate these scaffolds or our you know, vision going forward?
I feel like the scrums are one of the most valuable parts of Agile Ventures, because it's a time when you get to say what you're stuck on and somebody can help you out with it. So knowing how to, as long as there's guidelines about what the format of that is and what the point of that, that's available at the beginning. And I don't know if I remember seeing that or not before I was actually in the scrum and listening, talking about blockers and about what they've.
Yeah, and I think you may well know of them, but that's a great point, Will. Thank you.
I didn't. Yeah, I think I've made my point without finishing my sentence. I think.
And it was such a good point that it didn't need finishing the sentence to have the full thought of greatness on it. Go on, Michael.
So Joao was talking specifically about cash, right? And how we don't make enough of it. So, Sam, would you like to address that?
Well, I can, and I can take on Will's. I can blend Will's in there. In that, again, we've got a we've also got a document which is all about the you know, the stand up. It's about running a stand up rather than participating in it, but it mentions those things. But again, we used to, in the greeting to the people coming into Slack, we were at one point pasting them. I remember which one it was. It was like joining an existing project. Yeah, it was about joining an existing project. It's another one. We've got this. I mean, I'll share this now in the. And we removed that and we replaced it with a link to information about the premium mob, and that was partly motivated by bringing in more money. And I think, you know, the root of the problem for all of these things is, I think, effective communication. In that, you know, we've got a lot of people coming into Agile Ventures, kind of, you know, unsurprisingly, with very unclear ideas about what it's actually all about. I think, you know, the words and the images and so on that we show them, the way that we articulate our longer term vision, how to participate in the immediate steps that are coming up, how to like what a premium mob is, what a premium face-to-face session is, what a scrum is, all of these things. For those of us who are like have been doing it and living it and came up with ideas, it's kind of almost obvious, and it seems to be it's an uphill struggle to get that across effectively. I'm really impressed with what the Odin project has done with their they've just revamped their website for kind of like a flow. I don't know if you guys have seen what they've done. So it's really nice and clean. They've got some like diagram there. You've got a little description of how it works and so on. You're telling you what you'll experience. And they've got chat on every page. And then you get into the curriculum. And it's a series of different lessons. You start on this one. And they're kind of like, a bit like FreeCodeCamp does in places, pointing out to like, watch this video over here and do this thing over here and so on. But as you go through it, you can then say you've read what their stuff. Okay, I'm understanding that. And then, yeah, I mean, if you're logged in, which I am, go back to the curriculum, you can, on each individual section, when you feel that you've mastered whatever the assignment was in there, you can tick off and say that you've completed it. And they've got like their Gita chat embedded for an easy, just start chatting and say, hello, what have you. And I think they're doing a much. I mean, it's not necessarily perfect. I mean, you can see also their. Can I get rid of that? Down here, their money thing, like the Viking Code School, is the paid version. Oh, they've got an online boot camp, and so the kind of value proposition here for this is fairly clear. They've got their big open source curriculum. I mean, I don't know that I've always felt like, I didn't want to develop a big start from scratch. You've never programmed before. Here's how to learn in Agile Ventures, because I always saw that as like what other folks were doing really well, and we were kind of trying to catch people as they had proceeded through those funnels, like they've graduated from a boot camp from a university or what have you. They're between jobs or jobs, and they want to give something back. But if we could, articulate, get the flow sorted in a way that we don't have in the current site, I think that would go a long way. I don't know. Am I making any sense?
Yep. So for me, when I came to Agile Ventures, it was a choice between two things: picking one of the projects that was already there and putting my own project on. It's all about the projects, I think. And so I guess, and you want an overview of that choice at the beginning, and I don't know what there is if you look at the page. No. Here, I mean, once you sign up, we end up putting people into our getting started thing, which is, yeah. I mean, it's lost. Oh gosh, that's happened there, Federico. But yeah, I mean, it's. I think bottom line, it's not clear, and we need to do a better job. Sorry, go on. Yeah. So step one is find a project that interests you. Yeah. And so that's excluding bring your own project. It's not. Bring your own project isn't first class like finding a project that interests you. No. I mean, partly because we're encouraging people to like contribute to other projects, and the way it happens in the sequence at the moment, which could be changed. I mean, this is like I've just broken up the sequence that was put together by somebody completely independently from me or any of the more recently people. But it gets on step 7 optional is now starting your own project. But maybe we should have that up front. I think these are. It could be the first thing, and then we can encourage people to start projects, and then say look at the other projects. Yeah, because for me there was a 4 or 5 month gap between arriving and starting my own project. Whereas if that had been more upfront, I might have started my own project straight away. No, that's a good valuable feedback.
So I think that's great feedback. Well, it'd be interesting to know, like, I guess we'd have to survey or something what percentage of people are looking to start their own project just right off the bat, and what percentage are like trying to get some structure into joining a project first of all to eventually start a project.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of what the podcast was getting at, that shared outcomes, and kind of like what JP was talking about a couple weeks ago, that so to where there's that cross-pollination of best practices and it all gets shared, kind of like what you said earlier, Sam.
Mm.
And I agree that there has to be a bit of freedom to do what you want, because for example, with Phoenix One, we're trying to do it sort of more like a real life paying project where we're dedicated amount of people Monday through Friday, and we're kind of fighting against a little bit of the daily Scrum notion. We're trying to actually be more Scrum framework and less of what AV does in the Scrums, and specifically like where we're reflecting too much on what we did, and we're actually trying to reflect more on what we are going to do. So I think having that freedom is pretty important.
Yeah.
Good stuff. That's also great feedback. Oh, go on. Someone was going to say something?
Saying that's Sam's fault.
Well, as we've established that basically all things are my fault. That's I'm the grit around which the pearl forms in the oyster.
It's Sam's fault for what?
Reflecting too much on what we did.
Well, I mean, we're also experimenting. We're not saying this is the right way. I mean, AV's got I think a good formula. I think it's working. I think there's room to improve for sure. But I mean, it could be a bad formula what we try. But most importantly, we're doing the retro, and we're adjusting. So
yeah,
yes.
Here. I mean, I think people. I mean, what was also coming out from these podcasts. I mean, I think we won't have time for this other one here, which is getting more down in the weeds. But the is that Agile is often thought of as kind of like, oh, that means you're doing Scrum, or that means that you're doing sprints, or what have you. Whereas the key thing of Agile is that you're reflecting at some point on how you did things, and then you're making plans based upon what you learned from what you just did. And it's fairly clear to me, even observing from a distance, that SHF is doing that. I'm less clear about to what extent Wikimedia is doing that. As Federico says, Phoenix One is doing that. I think it's very important that every project can use that agile approach to keep improving how they do things. And I guess the key will be making sure that the things that get learned in the different silos do actually get passed backwards and forwards. I guess I'm hoping that we can move towards doing something like an AGM or a conference where, it would be great to have the different AV projects present what they've done. You know what I mean? I mean, Met Plus is coming up to a point of going live. It feels like, I don't know, I kind of resist doing a mini conference because I'm always tempted to just, I want to keep on working. And then there's the pain of setting it all up. But I feel like we kind of, partly in order to break down some of the barriers between the different projects, we need to create an event that will allow more mingling between different teams. Do you know what I mean? And the problem with a AV community meeting as a kind of repeating, I can't. But if we say, look, here's a one-off event, it's going to be this full day or these 2 days running this thing, I feel like that might be able to sort of shake things up a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, call it an all projects meeting.
AV mixer.
Yeah, and I think in the ideal world, you know, we would be able to do like an event in a like convention center, and like you'd get all of the people kind of hanging out between meetings and idle chatting and so on. That kind of really helps forge a community. I think that's probably not realistic, but
Well,
you know, I think that the challenge for some people about, like, say, for example, the SHF project or the MediaWiki EDU project is like, well, I'm going to come in and spend this time and listen to all this bit, that, and the other. Whereas if it's like, okay, I can see the agenda in advance. Here's 5 talks. Talk 1, Wikimedia EDU, what we're doing, and we'll hear from them about, you know, things that are working well in the project, not so well, and so on. Learn about it. Next up, SHF project. Next up, Met Plus. Next up, local support, and kind of, you know what I mean? Like, do the proper online conference, single track, 5 things in a row. People obviously attend what they can, but everything gets videoed, and then, you know, afterwards there's a, you know, you can watch the videos later, and so on. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just thinking that might help. Go on, Michael.
I was saying that the advantage of this is that there will be a lot of other people speaking other than Sam.
Oh, which,
Well, Sam is like a gifted speaker for presentations. I mean, that's what he's built for. So I don't know that that's such a bad idea.
well, but I think I really appreciate Michael volunteering to present website 1 and local support, because that'll just take. I can sit back and relax and enjoy Michael's presentation of them. So,
Well, I was thinking for local support, we could have somebody else do it.
well, you know, you are the a past expert in delegating, Michael. So we can obviously work with that. But yeah, I mean, I think certainly from my point of view, my interest in the conference is, if I could avoid presenting, that would be great. I would absolutely love to hear SHF projects, Met Plus, Wikimedia EDU, RunFunk. You know, like I would prioritize those guys over like the usual same old Sam chatting about his random stuff. So, okay.
That's if they attend.
Yeah, well, that'll be the. I mean, I guess for those of you here, I'm not hearing any negatives about this. You guys would be interested to, like, such a conference sounds like, oh, that's kind of cool. And like, Joao, you might present on Met Plus, and Federico, you might present on Phoenix One.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
So I also think it's a good idea, and I'm thinking of it more for promotional purposes, like for getting other type of external people finding us on YouTube or something.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna have our own conference. We're that big now.
Well, that's why I put the word mini in front of it, but yes. Well, and Michael, you can
Don't put that. That's not good marketing. Don't put mini. That's
yeah.
Okay.
Bigly.
Yeah, big Mecca conference.
Big league.
Decai, and it's the phrase. It's Uber conference. But yeah, Michael, you can present on the machine learning stuff.
I think Giles saying something.
It's like 2,000 people, right?
Well, I mean,
we are like 2,000 now.
Oh,
Right?
the number of people are active. It's 150 are active in Slack.
It doesn't matter. Like, we're 2,000, right?
Oh yeah,
So
we've got
we can do like a major conference. Like
on the website, 6,000. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So you see, like 6,000 people. We're huge.
Yeah.
You can do a huge conference.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, and we'll stream it on YouTube. Millions could be watching it around the world. So it's, but yeah, there's a good point Federico made about. I think having a video which is like a presentation on the project, what's been going on, that's great. You can then stick that on the project page later on. It's something people want to know about. You know, they can refer back to that. So it's good.
I think we'll easily outbeat the viewerships for DHH versus Kent Beck.
I'm sure. Yeah, no doubt.
As refereed by Martin Fowler.
Yeah. And Will, would you be interested? I mean, it's not going to be for. I mean, like, would you conceivably interested in presenting why at some point?
Yeah, I'd like the opportunity to lay all of my mistakes bare would be cool, because then people can go, you should have done this, and this is what I remember when, yeah. And if I can learn something by presenting, that would be good. That's what I really want. I don't want to just present something and people go, okay, cool, next one, and then because you want to get something back from it, really. If you put the effort into presenting, I think presenting mistakes is what I'm going to do. So yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Cool. Okay. And what the other projects is like? It's OpenPia Power, SHF, RunFunk, Wikimedia EDU. Yeah, Agile Ventures Conference. Okay. Done deal. Well, I think that's about as much time as I have. Good meeting. I guess the big action item is, work out the time for the potential Sunday meeting next week, and yeah, maybe JP will talk about whether it's worth doing a sort of a standalone survey for the mentors or not. And yeah, Agile Ventures Conference.
So I have an agenda item for next time.
Okay.
Which is discuss the idea of free mobs, inspired by what, or a free mob inspired by what JP was talking about. I think it was 3 weeks ago, perhaps.
Oh yeah. One thing that Brent mentioned during the week is he said that certain other projects were having regular pairing times where it was just sort of everybody come and join and pair on that project, and he was suggesting that for local support, and I thought that was a great idea. And yeah, rather than sort of encouraging, like if there was a regular time, like that we have like regular weekly meetings, but if there was a regular kind of pair hookup session, that would be good. I think that sounds excellent. So.
All right, so I think we're done.
Yeah, good stuff. Good to see you all, guys. Have a fantastic.
See you guys. Have a nice weekend.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye for now.
Cool. Bye, everyone.
Oh, Sam,
Yeah.
I just had a question. Did that person who had difficulty signing up through Stripe, did that ever work out?
We are. Yeah, I guess I'll just wrap up the meeting. Take that offline.